feel sorry for the Southend cabbies. That's all from Kevin in Malden. Thank you for that, Kevin.
Conversation.
I tell you what, that was a great conversation with everyone talking about taxis. I knew nothing other than how to hail one. But Graham, what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are exactly this, that every single council has their own licensing conditions to license taxi drivers, private hire drivers, and they all have to meet these conditions and have knowledge tests, local knowledge, streets, places of interest, so they know how to operate safely within that borough or within that town, within that licensing district. I actually used one of these Uber cabs myself on Tuesday night, and the chap, quite rightly, was licensed in London by Transport for London, and he'd come down to Southend with a job, which he charged £50 for, and he was trying to get himself 2 or 3, 4 jobs running around locally before, in his words, he went to Southend Airport to find himself a job to take him back to London. And that driver hadn't got a clue where he was taking me. He had no local knowledge. He is not licensed by Southend. I had to tell him everywhere where to go. And my point is that our council should be protecting our people of Southend. If a young girl had got into that car instead of me, that driver could have taken it anywhere.
Yeah.
We are totally unprotected, and unfortunately our licensing officers in Southend have no jurisdiction over these Uber drivers from outside. The only people that have any authority over them is their own enforcement officers in London, and they obviously are not interested.
Well,
so it's a major problem, and Tony Cox is right on the right track. It's got to go right up to government level very quickly and be sorted from that level, I feel.
Graham, I thank you very much indeed for your call. On a text here, I say to my husband's experience, from my husband's experience, customers could not care where their taxi or hire firms are licensed. If Uber drivers can come into any area and pick up, then maybe other drivers should be able to do the same. The law needs looking at urgently, says Linda. Steve's in Southend. Morning, Steve.
Oh, hiya, Sadie. Long time no speak.
It certainly is, Steve. Where the hell have you been?
Well, I've been retired 2 years. One of them went yesterday and today, so I've been out yesterday and today round the fair county again.
Marvellous. What do you think of this Uber business, Steve?
Well, I'd like to carry on from a safety point of view. I've never used an Uber, and I don't use taxis because I've got my own car and my motorbike, as you know. Right. These taxis have got to have specified insurance. They're private hire insurance or their taxi insurance, whichever it is, yeah? Right. You're in a taxi, it's an Uber driver, and he's out of his area, as this other fella's already explained. It is, yeah? So he may or may not be correct in another area. That's a different issue. What happens if that Uber driver has an accident, a really, really serious one, and there's a couple of £1 million claim going to go through? Can you honestly see what happens if that Uber driver has an accident, a really, really serious one, and there's a couple of £1 million claim going to go through? Can you honestly see the insurance company for that Uber driver and taxi and that? Can you see them paying out in a grey area? Because I can't. Which means, if I were you, I'd think whether you're uninsured in these Uber taxis.
Well, Steve, I thank you very much indeed for your call. Interesting calls. We'll have to follow this up. Alan's in Braintree. Hello, Alan.
Hello, Sadie.
Uber, tell me about it. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I first used Uber. I was in Las Vegas earlier in the year, and basically we come out of the airport. I'd read some sort of horror stories about not so much Uber, about the actual taxi service, the licensed taxi service of Las Vegas, and straight away we got into a minicab, got took to our hotel, and was basically ripped off by the licensed people. Anyway, from that day, I downloaded the Uber app and I used it everywhere in Las Vegas, and it was absolutely fantastic. The drivers would meet you, they'd welcome you by saying your name, hello Alan, blah, blah, blah. The fares were literally half the price. And for instance, when we went from the airport to the hotel, and it cost us $48, and going back we used an Uber driver and it cost us $15.
Alan, you've had the final word on it. Thank you very much indeed. I'm sure this is a subject we're going to come back to. Obviously, passion's running high. What do we want? Do we want cheap fares, or do we want to know that everyone's licensed properly? Well, let's go straight to now Elizabeth Rizzini on the weather and find out what's happening weather-wise for us today. Morning, Elizabeth.